I noticed that they were putting up church banners. I drove around to all schools, little Sunday afternoon, everything else, and there's a church banner. So I wrote to the Broward County school system. I said, Church of Satanology and perpetual soiree, where it's Wednesday is cold beer and wings, hot wings, and the mariachi band. We want to put up a sign. Oh, no, you can't do that.
Next to the church banner on the fence.
Yeah. So I took him to court.
Somewhere I read of the freedom of speech.
You're listening to So to Speak, the free speech podcast, brought to you by FIRE, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.
All right, folks, welcome back to So to Speak, the free speech podcast, where every other week we take an uncensored look at the world of free expression through the law, philosophy, and stories that define your right to free speech. I'm your host, Nico Perino. Debates over religious freedom have shaped American life for centuries. From Quakers facing persecution and prosecution in colonial America, to the Crucible, to South Park. Fights over religious expression have repeatedly tested the country's commitment to free speech and religious liberty. At the heart of these debates are a few basic questions. Does the Constitution protect only popular beliefs or all of them? If the government opens the door for one form of religious expression, does it have to allow for every form? And if not, where does the Constitution draw the line? Few people have tested those questions more publicly and more directly than today's guest, Chaz Stevens. Chaz is the founder of the Church of Satanology. For more than 2 decades, he has used satire, publicity stunts, and litigation to challenge what he sees as hypocrisy and how governments apply religious liberty protections. Again and again, his activism has forced public officials into uncomfortable constitutional territory, testing whether protections for religious freedom are truly universal. Today, Chaz joins us to talk about those battles, the philosophy behind his activism, and what he's learned from years of pushing the boundaries of the First Amendment. Chaz, thanks for joining us today.
That's a hell of an introduction, sir. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope we can live up to it.
Yeah, let's see, sir. Let's see. I've been studying all my life for this moment.
All right, well, let's get going. I think the first question our listeners are going to have after listening to that introduction is, so Satanology, what is that?
For years, I thought it was a religion. And then I sued the Broward County school systems, and the lawyer for the Broward County school system, a very talented fella, asked me to define it. And I realized it's just a stress test. It's a way of determining if the government is complying with the First Amendment.
Okay. So it's not a religion.
No, sir.
And you are not what some might call a Satanist, a believer in Satan, the doctrines of Satan. I don't know what Satanism is, but presumably it has something to do with Satan. Does the Church of Satanology have anything to do with Satan?
Satanists and atheists tend to hate me. They loathe me. No, my gig is all about, that's why I'm here, Nico. My gig is all about constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. I don't care what you believe in. You're free to believe whatever you want to do. I will back your right to believe that. But I'm not a Satanist. I'm an atheist, but I'm not a Satanist. I'm not a Satanology. I'm not with the Satanic Temple, any of that stuff.
Okay. So then Satanology, let's try and define, is it a philosophy, a way of life, a way of going about something, a view on life then?
No, it's a stick. It's a stick. It's a really pointy, sharp stick to poke and prod those in charge.
Okay.
To make sure that if they are going to open up the public forum to certain views, I'm going to stress test the living shit out of them by giving something that they don't like, and they're going to have to either let me in or take everybody else out.
Okay, so let's talk about what that stick looks like in real life. The ways that you are poking and prodding different government officials to apply viewpoint neutral standards to speech. I read somewhere that, for example, if a town council opens up its council meeting with a prayer, for example, you will sometimes ask to recite a prayer to the Church of Satanology. In one case, I believe I read that you told the government officials that it might involve mariachi music twerking, something, nachos. I mean, it kind of sounds like my religion if I'm speaking personally, but the government officials weren't too keen on this approach, huh?
Listen, the Catholics like, body of Christ, right? Not with wafers and grape juice. I think beer and wings, bro. and who doesn't want Lambamba playing in the background? That was Satan or silence. And it's 6 or 7 different municipalities in South Florida.
Okay.
I forced them into decision. I use this thing called, some call it malicious compliance. I call it textual compliance, which is textual literalism. I force a binary decision, okay? Which is, if you're going to allow your prayer, and this was Dania Beach, where I listened to an invocation. The commissioner, 23 praise gods in about 2 minutes. And I'm thinking, I'm sitting there, I'm just trying to get my boat dock approved. I'm not at Sunday school. So I saw this. And then I said, huh. So I asked, let Satan have his, 2 minutes of time. Mm-hmm. 5 or 6 different communities in South Florida said no. They switched from invocation to a moment of silence. To a moment of silence, or just skip the whole thing altogether and got right to the business at hand.
Okay, so they understood then that if they were going to have a prayer to a certain deity, in this case the Christian one, that they needed to allow for you to have your prayer. In this case, it sounds like you're talking about actual Satan, or they couldn't have it at all.
You would think. You would think that's the case, right? Uh-huh. So it's viewpoint discrimination. Allow everybody in or allow none in.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's like Scottish law. There's 3 options: all, none, or some. Some are those that we favor. And let me tell you how they favor that. The Christians will come in and ask to do something. Church of Satanology come in, and 6 months later, they're still dithering around trying to, get my approval, seeing everything else. So they favor, there's this favoritism that shows up in different ways. In theory, it's let me in or take everybody else out.
Mm-hmm. So I read that you said, I don't believe in Satan. We've already discussed that. I don't believe in God or any of the 10,000 gods that have existed here on planet Earth.
You guys have done your work. Excellent.
Well, yeah, thank producer Emily for digging up these gems of a quote. But she found that what you do believe in is the First Amendment and the Constitution. So like Milton chose Satan, I chose Satan to make it really uncomfortable. What do you mean Milton chose Satan? So this is presumably the poet John Milton, who wrote the famous poem Paradise Lost in the 17th century.
Exactly right. Milton was religious. Mm-hmm. So Milton's idea of Satan was a rebel, an outcast, a guy that pushed boundaries. Uh-huh. And that's where my idea of Satanology came from, which was this. It's hard. Listen, when you're trying to talk to elected officials and you're talking about Milton, you've lost the game.
Well, even just mentioning Satan, that's why I'm trying to unpack the Satan thing. Just using the word Satan and that you're the Church of Satanology, regardless of what that belief actually entails, I'm sure it puts their guards up, it puts their dukes up, and they want nothing to do with it, even if what you were saying has nothing to do with praise of Satan.
I got you. Okay, so imagine this. Mr. Mayor, Chaz Stevens here with the Church of SpongeBob SquarePants. Do you mind if I give an invocation? You're going to laugh me off. I'm not going to irritate anybody. I'm not going to push the injuries. I'm not going to push the boundaries. I'm a stress tester. I'm a constitutional stress tester. I worked for a small little rocket company owned by the United States government where we debug systems. So I look at constitutional law as code. I look to exquisitely apply the law. Why Satan? Because it's a bugaboo, because it's going to drive attention. SpongeBob, how fun that is, Cartman, how fun that is, isn't going to drive attention. Satan would drive attention. If there was some other more ridiculous idea, I'm open. If your callers want to call in and tell me, try something else, and it would get the response, I'm all for it.
So you like strict rules, strict boundaries, things that are easy to understand, things that do not have ambiguity surrounding them. And if you have this rule in the United States that the freedom of speech must not be abridged, or Congress shall make no law establishing a religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, you think that needs to apply regardless of what someone says or believes. But you have found that when Satan is mentioned or something else that is deeply offensive
All hell
is
breaks
mentioned,
loose.
all hell breaks loose, and these constitutional rules or these codes, to apply the rocket analogy again, just fall apart.
Correct.
And that bugs you. That just gets at your core, and you've devoted, it sounds like, your life to highlighting that hypocrisy.
I ask people this question: what's in the First Amendment? What's exactly in the First Amendment? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of press,
Assembly.
And they, well, hang on, don't give it up yet. So the fifth one, I know you know this. People will stumble on the fifth. They'll go, what the? I said, there's the fifth. And that's where I live. That's where I live. And that's the right to redress your grievances. That's the right, Nico, to bitch at the government. I look to stress test. I use my engineering background and I apply my engineering principles of testing, of debugging, to law. To me, it's the same thing. With my wiring, with my neurospicy wiring, it's the same thing. Things that I learned in engineering apply directly to the law. And then because I'm really good at pattern detection and really good at finding stuff coming through sideways, finding stuff that doesn't make sense, I find all these things where they wrote the law, but they did a bad job.
There's a bug in the code.
This,
Got a prop here for our listeners who can't see what Chaz is holding up.
in 2022, the state of Texas wrote a law that said, we want to put "In God We Trust" on all the walls in our public school districts. And the signs have to be 16 by 20. They have to be durable. There has to have the Texas flag. They said that's the law, okay? Got to have the words "In God We Trust." I'm biking on Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's a really cool place. If you ever have a chance to bike on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, I highly recommend it.
My sister lives in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Borrow her bike, grab her mountain bike, and go tooling along. So there I am. And I stop, and I went, holy shit. They didn't say it had to be in English. I'm an artist. All this artwork is mine. Forget what this says. This is just beautiful. It's calligraphy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you're holding up that apparently something that would meet all of those standards, but instead of being in English,
Yes, it's in
in
Arabic.
Arabic.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second. Yeah, I'll reveal here, which is this. So I'm on the beach. I call my partner up. I said, I got him. Arabic or Klingon or Hebrew or Punjabi or blah, 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 blah. But the Arabic is going to flip them the fuck out. Oh, God, in Texas. So I went to, like everybody else, I go to the Googles and I said, make me the Sanskrit of "In God We Trust" so I can draw it out. And it did that. Beautiful. And I posted that. And I put it up on the social medias. And I got burned by the people in the Middle East. Why? Because Google translated "In God We Trust" to "In God We Trusted."
Oh, be careful with Google, huh?
Oh, yeah. Can you tell this is "In God We Trust" versus "In God We Trusted"? No. Shit, no. So
that could say "In Chaz We Trust," and I
Exactly.
wouldn't know the difference.
there we go, another sign.
And there is a sign that says "In Chaz We Trust." I swear I didn't look at this before I said that.
All others pay cash.
So this is what we're looking at here, Chaz, is an upside down cross illuminated with what looks like Christmas lights. On the vertical, it says "In Chaz We Trust," and on the horizontal there is "All others pay cash."
Correct.
Where was this?
That was the city of Hallandale. They left open
In Florida?
In Florida, Hallandale, just south of Fort Lauderdale. They left open a little hole. They put "In God We Trust" on the back behind the dais. So I said, I want to put my sign up there. And they said, okay. This was before we did something else. But hang on, before we moved from Texas.
Sure.
Okay? So I got this done. I hired a team of people in the Middle East because I don't care what you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not poking fun at your religion. I'm poking fun at using your religion to gain an edge. I sent 25,000 of these to Texas. These signs, 25,000 posters that fully complied, albeit in Arabic, fully complied with Texas law. Not a single one got posted.
So this is something you do often, right? Often during the Christmas holidays, different communities will allow for religions to have like a nativity scene or something like that, for churches to put that up on city property. And what you do, if I'm understanding correctly, is you test whether these communities are establishing a religion by prohibiting other religions for putting up a structure or a scene alongside these scenes from the Christian religion. How often are you denied? How often are you allowed to put up your structures? What have you encountered in the years that you've done this?
2013, I got word that the state of Florida, Capital Rotunda, Rick Scott Skeletor was governor at the time, allowed a creche.
What's that?
A manger.
Oh, okay.
Baby Jesus Motel 6. And I made a 6-foot-tall Festivus pole that we put up in the belly of the Florida Rotunda with Pabst Blue Ribbon cans. Rick Scott went to impinge my rights, said that he was going to allow the creche, the manger, but not allow the Pabst Blue Ribbon can. In the state where I was, right in the Rotunda, there was a sign that says free speech zone. When I do all this stuff, it all comes down to one secret sauce, Nico, which is force a binary decision. Force the government into a binary decision. All or none, yes or no, red or blue, 1 or 0. The magic is to find that. That is my art. I don't protest. I don't wave flags. I don't get out and chant. My art is to file paperwork. That's the art. The art is to figure out where the hole is to expose the issue. I am unlike there's no page in the playbook for me. They don't know how to respond to me.
That, for our listeners who do not see it, can either be described as an abstract pine tree or a very large butt plug.
Very large butt plug. 9 pounds, 11 inches tall, 9 pounds. Back to state capital of South Carolina.
Chaz is holding up a photo now, yeah.
If you look here, you'll see that where the nethers of Jesus' little pixelated parts is a red dot there. That was the original butt plug. That was a doorbell. So when you pushed it, it rang the doorbell at the top that said, "What the fuck, Jesus? What the fuck, Jesus?"
I mean, this is going to offend a lot of people. So just so our listeners are clear on what Chaz is showing here, it's a photo of an upside down black cross with an outline of presumably Jesus hanging upside down on this cross. There's a doorbell that had the butt plug on it, yeah. And then there was a sign that said,
"In Satan we trust,"
with God crossed out.
With God. Okay, so that was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I was yet,
and they let you put that up.
Yes. Yeah.
Was it a fight, or did
no.
they just let you do it? They kind of understood their requirement that they couldn't discriminate based on viewpoint. Wow.
Let me go off tangent for a second. The state of Florida removed the sign where I had my Pabst Blue Festivus pole. It said the free speech zone in the state of Florida Rotunda. They took the sign down because I put up a stand-ups of Tucker Carlson as the Grim Reaper and Fauci as Fauci Claus in 2021. They didn't like the fact that I didn't get permission to put Tucker Carlson up. So they I'm banned from putting anything up now for my display.
Oh, so when you submitted the paperwork, you said you were going to put a Fauci up, but you didn't know Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all this stuff was kind of a grenade looking for the way for me to do business.
Mm-hmm.
It was inefficient. Poking fun at someone just to poke fun at someone is good for laughs. It's not good for making change.
But this is all in service of something, right? It's service of your belief in the First Amendment and its core values and making sure that government officials are committed to those values? Or is it fun just for fun's sake?
Early on, it was fun for fun's sake. I didn't understand what I was doing. My uncles fought in World War II. One uncle in particular, Uncle Ray, my namesake, he was in Patton's army, Bastogne, Bulge. That's the blood that flows through me. Not, I don't have the right stuff, not like these guys. I wake up every morning looking to protect our constitutional rights in my own way. In 2022, a guy by the name of Ron DeSantis running for president, he made a big stink out of wanting to ban books. Anybody could ban the books. You could file an objection, don't care who you are, file an objection, and then they had to pull the book and then go through the kind of thing. I really wasn't paying attention to that. And then I read they banned some math books, and that caught my attention. So I asked the state of Florida to ban 63 school districts to ban the Bible.
So you filed one of these objections.
Correct.
That the law, you say, allowed for.
Correct. Please take down the Bible. In the Bible, first Bible 1 and Bible 2, there's plenty of objectionable material in there. Cannibalism, bestiality, murder, rape, pillaging, slavery, drunken orgies with your father and daughters. I mean, just the whole list is a little creepy, but yet there we are.
The Old Testament's got a lot going on in there.
It's yeah. It'd make a good Showtime movie. So I asked, let's ban the Bible. Broward County school system did that for 2 years. They were supposed to remove the book within 6 weeks. They didn't.
Remove the book for further investigation.
Correct.
Presumably see if it fit the statutory requirements for removal.
Yeah, so if somebody says remove Toni Morrison's book, or Huck Finn, they took Huck Finn down in Tampa. Oh, Huck Finn has a bad word, and it is a bad word, but it's other times. I'm not here to argue one way or the other.
Sure.
But let's take the book off the shelf until we figure out what the hell to do with the book. Well, they didn't do that at the house. And my argument was, because I'm a nerd, kids don't actually read books anymore. They have an iPad. And the school hands out Google notebooks and notepads and laptops and everything else. And you ban pornography. If you can ban porn pretty well, except for a 12-year-old boy, they'll figure out how to get around it. But if you ban pornography, you can ban the Bible. They didn't do that. They argued that the book had literary significance. I thought at that time, game over. Okay? Moms for Liberty, that fella in Tallahassee or Leon County, they won. I thought that. Till one day I got a call. Chaz, reporter Bob with Fortune magazine here on the line with you. Ron DeSantis rewrote and nuked the Bible, the book ban. And on the dais, pointed his finger at you and said, the reason we had to change the law is because of you. What do you think? Holy shit, I'll take that. I'll take it for whatever they do. He changed the law that said, changed it to now, instead of anybody can file as many as they want, once a month. So now in the state of Florida, we don't have, it's curtailed. You don't hear it in the news anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when all of these efforts to restrict books that could be made available in school libraries was going on. I mean, that was a big story between 2021 and 2023 when Moms for Liberty in particular were pursuing this campaign. And I think it was Missouri or some other Midwestern state had written a law that was so broad that, like, the Diary of Anne Frank, for example, was
Missouri, I think it was.
Yeah, I thought it was Missouri too. That was the state that came to mind, but I couldn't confirm that just from memory. You, in some of your cases, you're not just doing the activism, you're also filing lawsuits?
The answer is yes. Let me not bury the lead. I learned to become a lawyer. Apologies to lawyers. I'm a shitty lawyer, but I learned to become a lawyer in 7 months. Okay? And I'll tell you what that means.
You're not an actual practicing lawyer, but you learned enough about this. Okay.
Pro se. I've won.
That means you file your own lawsuits and represent yourself.
I represent myself. So around the same time that Broward County was dickering with me with the Bibles, around the chain link fence, they had church banners.
At the schools?
At the schools. I'm sure you're familiar with Bremerton versus Kennedy.
Yes.
I asked to put a Church of Satanology banner up at Bremerton, and they said we don't do any more banners out there. So, well aware what happened at Bremerton, I noticed that they were putting up church banners. I drove around to all schools, little Sunday afternoon to everything else, and there's a church banner. So I wrote to the Broward County school system. I said, Church of Satanology and perpetual soiree, where it's Wednesday is cold beer and wings, hot wings, and the mariachi band. We want to put up a sign. Oh, no, you can't do that.
Next to the church banner on the fence.
Yeah. So I took him to court. Pro se, viewpoint discrimination. When you're pro se, everything is weighted against you.
Yeah, they're looking for ways to get rid of your case, and that's one of the reasons that attorneys advise not going pro se is because you could fumble the procedure
Everywhere.
Yeah.
But also, you have to file your paperwork in person. So it's a 2.5-hour drive to go down to Fort Lauderdale. I live north of Lauderdale, but it's an hour through traffic.
Oh yeah,
it's
bad traffic.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you know that. So it's you go down there. You got to go in person. You got this. You got that. The system is built against you everywhere you go. Forget the fact that you got to build a good pleading and you got to do everything else. They also, Nico, hired a really talented lawyer, really good guy, talented lawyer, Bob Bushell, part of Roger Stone's legal defense firm with the Mueller investigation. One of the reasons I retired, I used to do work with Bob with Stone as his IT guy doing his websites. So when he got caught up with all that other shit, I said, I'm retired. I don't need to show up in DC.
Roger Stone, also known for being a trickster.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Self-described.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. AI was just, I was dabbling in AI, using it like everybody else does. Ask ChatGPT to do this. Chat, write me a lawsuit. I don't write you a lawsuit. And if you don't know anything about the law, you're not a lawyer, you're not licensed, well, this is really good. It sucks. Because AIs are trained to please you. AIs are trained to say yes. AIs are trained to agree with you. So how do you write a lawsuit if you're saying this is, I got this greatest idea, and the AIs come back and say, Chaz, that's the greatest idea in the world. You're better than Jerry Spence. Holy crap, bro. You're the new Matlock. I lost the case. 2 reasons. One, I survived my first motion to dismiss, which is unbelievably rare as a pro se litigant in federal court. It's under 10% to survive a motion to dismiss. I survived the first motion to dismiss. I lost the second motion to dismiss because they took the flags down.
So the case was
Mooted. Correct. I should have sued them for $1 because if I put $1 in the thing,
you could recover damages.
Yeah, they could have. It's a Uzembe or something or other. There's a whole SCOTUS case about this, which I learned after the fact.
That was a recent SCOTUS case.
Yeah. They mooted it. I learned that the school board. This is going to freak you out. I learned that the school board superintendent wrote to Liberty Counsel and said, "We're sorry we took down your sign. That Chaz Stevens is not a good guy. We're going to buy you a new sign, and we're going to give you a year's worth of sign posting on the school district's tab." Holy shit. You're using my tax dollars to fund a sign for a church? I don't think so. They changed their ways. I figured out how to use AI. I have 7 different AIs, all playing methed up 149th degree checkers against each other, adversarial, arguing with each other over my filings. I have one AI is the role of a federal judge, one AI is a defense litigator, one AI is a law clerk, one AI is a law professor, one AI is my mom saying I'm doing the best thing in the world, blah, 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 blah. Here's something I do. And it's called Stan, short for Satan, and they battle it out. And it comes back, human in the loop, read it, and iterate through this. I have filed a second federal lawsuit, and I filed other I'm a little confused now. Excuse me. I filed a state lawsuit against emotional support animal letters. The ESA letters.
That allow people to get their dogs on the plane and whatnot.
Yeah. I won. A highly resourced, top of the line defense of two of the best law firms in the state of Florida, insurance law firms, Cassane, Scott, and Cole, and then Jimerson Burr. 8 lawyers against Chaz and his laptop. I won. Permanent injunction. State of Florida said, you did wrong under consumer protection. You did wrong. Chaz is right. You're going to change your ways. Proved out my tech stack. And it's only gotten better. Chip LaMarca, you're obviously familiar with Lindke versus Freed.
Mm-hmm.
That was
a case involving a politician who blocked one of their constituents, I believe one of their constituents, on social media, restricted their access. Correct. And they were using their social media platform as a place to pronounce on their official duties.
2022, Donald Trump sued the Knight Foundation because he blocked the Knight Foundation on Twitter.
Yeah, the Knight Foundation sued Donald Trump.
Oh, actually, thank you.
And I'm not sure if he blocked the Knight Foundation, but he blocked someone else, and maybe the Knight Foundation
is that how
was
represented.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to recall the facts here from memory, but I believe that was the case.
Yeah, it was Trump v. Knight. My local elected official blocked me on Twitter in 2022. So I said, I got a case here. So I filed in federal court. And this was the pre-Chaz stand days. I got really sick, deathly sick. My parents died. They were in my care. I nearly died myself. It's a miracle I'm here. But my case lingered and was dismissed because it was unattended. 2024, my life came back, everything else. And I went, I'm going to refresh that case. So Lindke versus Freed. Lindke was a constituent in Detroit or Michigan somewhere. Freed was a city manager. City manager blocked Lindke from one social media, and he took it there and everything else. The difference is, and I learned this, is direct versus collective. Okay? Freed, like Trump, like DeSantis, like the sheriff from Broward County, they have a direct hand on the lever of power. They can make decisions and they can change directions by themselves. Collective, in the case of Chip LaMarca, he's a representative. He's just one vote. So I sued under the novelty of, but this is the way we've always been doing it, so forth and so on. The research and the report and recommendation by the magistrate judge, she said, because LaMarca was collective, that fails the second prong of Lindke.
I'm not sure I agree with that or understand that. I'd have to look at Lindke again, but I think so long as the government official is speaking as a government official and they have power, even if it's just one vote, then they can't block any of their constituents. But I would have to look at the test again.
That's exactly my point. My argument to the magistrate judge and to Judge Damien, who's fantastic, a district judge down in Southern District of Florida, was he blocked me. He didn't block me from posts. He blocked me from an official outlet where I can no longer get on my soapbox and redress my grievances.
Or you can't even see what your representative might be saying that is relevant to you as your representative. Where does that case end up? I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole on that particular case, but where is it stand now?
I ran out of time. All this is funded out of my pocket, if you will, my time and energy. I ran out of time did I want to do this through an appeal? So I lost. The judge says motion to dismiss. You can refile your motion, or do I do something else? So I let the case just kind of wither and die, with the hopes that someone else will come along and agree with you, which is it's this collective kind of thing. I teed it up to say, is it novel or not? And I forget exactly what it was, but there's a thing in Lindke that basically says, is this the way we historically do this? LaMarca would do stuff. He would say, my son's T-ball game. That's personal.
Yeah.
He'd also say, "Well, yeah, vote yeah. We just voted yes, and I won." And on the floor here in the legislature, and rule number 17 just passed. That's the mixed use, and they did in Southern District of Florida. They didn't see eye to eye on that.
Yeah. How did you get involved in this sort of activism in the first place? What is your origin story? Because you said to start, your advocacy wasn't based on any sort of deep commitment to the principle. Some of it was, lack of a better word, trolling.
Correct. No,
fun
that's
joke,
that is the perfect word. There's not a better word. That is the word. When I was a young kid, my mama was really into politics, and we would sit around the kitchen table talking about politics. And she would tell the story to her friends how we went and voting. I'm a little boy, in hand, and I would say to her, "We're not voting for Tricky Dick, Mom. We're not voting for Tricky." So politics has been at the forefront of my life. And like I said, my uncles in World War II, they came back broken. And what better way to honor my namesake than to do this? I'm not sure how much time we have left. We have enough time? Are we doing time?
Yeah, we can do one more story there, and then I want to ask you one or two more questions. Sure.
So this, friends, this is breaking news. This is a Consentivius can. I did all this artwork. That's Donald Trump on it, and it says, "The official drink of felonious life choices, consent, America's handy," quote marks, in a can. "The best hands, tremendous hands, tiny hands vodka, fresh peto cola, uncut Russian uric acid, and 14% pure ecstasy disco biscuits."
So this is political satire.
Satire at its best.
Can you just hold it up stationary for the camera there for our viewers?
And there's one side, and you can't see it right there. It says J.E. Jeffrey Epstein. We'll talk about it in just a second. And then on the back, so I wanted to make a Festivus poll called Consentivius. You were asking me early on, am I always by the holidays? Yeah, but you bump into the holidays and then you irritate do you know there's Festivus purists, people that get pissed off at me because I'm besmirching the Festivus poll, and then you got to deal with
You're offending everyone, man.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And you're stumbling into it, not knowing who you're going to offend.
Don't be Chaz Stevens. So listen,
Muslims, Festivus purists, Christians.
Originally, I wanted to put it up on Valentine's Day. I wanted to call it Don's VD poll, Valentine's Day poll. Don's VD poll, because I'm trolling the living shit out of you. But we missed it. And the state of Georgia said no to me. They took it away. So then I reached around and I went, okay, where else? I asked in Florida. Illinois has they love democracy in Illinois. Illinois was the rotunda's under construction. Oklahoma, blah, 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 blah. The great people of Wisconsin, they take democracy really seriously there. So I put this up. On the top of this can, I couldn't bring this up, wanted to bring this up, is a custom LED heart that says Don plus Jeff that lights up. So it looks like a neon heart.
Sure.
So it's 6 feet tall, the heart right about ear level, and I'm going up on the 12th of June in the rotunda at Wisconsin. They welcomed me with open arms. Not a problem at all. Didn't blink an eye, everything else, yada, yada, yada. My art isn't the can. My art isn't the heart. My art is determining that binary and filing the complaint. That's the art. And there's an art to it. It's to figure out, debug the system and figure out where it is. And then you get to be the artist. And I'm leaving this with you all here.
Thank you.
And if you want to plug, if you want to put it out on the shelf, I don't have to go back through customs. Where
I was going to say, so Chaz came to us from Florida, and all this stuff was presumably in your suitcase. I don't know if it was in the carry backpack. So I don't know if TSA had you open this up.
They went, what the hell's that?
Trying to figure out what's in that butt plug, what it is, maybe an abstract pine tree or whatnot. But are you trying to convince people? Because I think you're probably offending a lot of people. Does it matter that you're offending them, or is your goal solely to test the boundaries of the First Amendment to ensure that government officials uphold and respect those boundaries?
That's an excellent question. And one of the reasons I'm really happy to be here with you is this. My audience isn't the great unwashed masses. I don't care about people. I mean, I care about people, but I don't care about people because they have a vote on a Tuesday in November, that's the end of their power for the most part. The elected officials, the legislators, they're the ones I care about. And the way you reach out to them isn't to wave a sign in the air. The way you reach out to them is to say, my Lex audit stuff, right? I'm doing governance now with cities in South Florida where they're bringing me in, stress testing. Barbarians at the gate, no, we're going to bring you behind the gate. So we're going to learn the Chaz Stevens method to harden our rules. Chaz, come in
So
here.
it's white hat hacking for the First Amendment.
Exactly right. Pressure testing. Exactly right.
Mm-hmm. Where can people learn more about what you're doing?
Do
you have a platform or a website or something?
Yeah, chazstevens.substack.com.
Okay.
And there takes you to all the other kind of stuff, and there it is. And you'll see art. You'll see it's a menagerie of art, legal filings, fart jokes, and you name it. It's a chili of fun.
All right. Well, I hope people will go out and check out your work. And as you noted, we're recording this. What is the day today?
Today's the 4th, I believe.
June 4th, and you have on the 12th your Don Consentivius poll going up at the State House in Wisconsin
for sale. On if you go to their Substack, you can buy your own, support my efforts, and I'll happily send you one. These are signed, of course, from my friends here at Fire.
And we have a gift for you too, which we'll give you on the other end.
Lobster?
Anyone who comes in the studio and records a podcast with us gets either a tie or a scarf. So.
Excellent.
You don't look like a tie guy to me.
No. I live in Florida.
You can hang it on the wall. All right, Chaz, thanks for coming up to Washington, D.C. and having this chat with us today. And thanks for all you do to stress test the First Amendment and ensure that these government officials abide by it.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you very much. I am beyond happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. I am Nico Perino, and this podcast is recorded and edited by a rotating roster of my Fire colleagues, including Bruce Jones, Ronald Baez, Jackson Flegel, and Scott Rogers. The podcast is produced by Emily Beeman. To learn more about So to Speak, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel or Substack page, both of which feature video versions of this conversation. You can also find the video on X by searching for our handle, Free Speech Talk. Feedback can be sent to sotospeak@thefire.org. Again, that is sotospeak@thefire.org. And if you're so inclined, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those reviews are the single best thing you can do to help us attract new listeners to the show. And until next time, I thank you all again for listening. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, Fire, and the Flame logo are registered trademarks of the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression.